Well, I guess we should start just because otherwise you won't have enough time to present. So I'm Coach Schreier and almost know everybody in the room now. Hi, hello. Very informal. 3 presentations. Kristen Zebstad will begin. So each of the presenters will have 25 minutes. They will either use all that time to present or present and then have questions. And so we'll just start right now. Bienvenue, merci.
Merci. So before I start, I want to thank Global Composition to give me the opportunity to present my research today. So I'm Kristen Zebstad, and I will present you the paper we wrote with my director of thesis, Ambisonics, which is not here today. Empty Room, exploring the plasticity of electroacoustic music spatialization in VR with Ambisonics 3D and binaural techniques. Our paper will present 2 spatialization experiments made in VR, and we achieved during the creative process of the Empty Room project. This project shows how virtual reality can be considered as a good host for actual and future multidimensional spatialization paradigms, especially when we experiment electroacoustic music in VR using ambisonic and binaural techniques. The project is also the core part of my ongoing PhD research I pursue at Musidance CICM Paris 8, Université de Saint-Denis. So to introduce myself, tell a little bit how I went into VR. So first I studied electroacoustic music with Jean Schwartz in the late 80s and worked as a sound engineer, sound designer and composer for TV and cinema post-production studios. I went into virtual reality in 2006 with Second Life, where I made a lot of incredible experiences with researcher, composer, digital artist. From there, I started to develop my first in-game electroacoustic soundscapes using Second Life tools, but these tools were made for 3D builder, absolutely not for musicians, but I used them and I achieved some very interesting things with it. This led me in 2013 to the MSAT Lab Spatial Media Laboratory in Paris, directed by François Garnier, where I started to work on the Empty Room project. This project was presented first time in December 2015 and was shown in numerous VR showrooms, exhibition, and conferences. So in 2016 I began my PhD with Ambisonics and François Garnier. So at the root of my research was always one question. So what if electroacoustic music merges with virtual reality? What could I do as a composer, and specifically as an electroacoustic composer with virtual reality? What kind of tools do I need? What are my possibilities? The question of sound being an essential component in VR experience started very early, since the 1990s, for example with NASA development for 3D sound for the flight simulation, in the flight simulation domain. But since this time, and especially in the video game industry, localized sound in a simulation was not specifically dedicated to music, but rather to falling. Music composed for video game was rather dedicated to loudspeaker, external loudspeaker systems, or headphones. So with Empty Room, we want to show something quite different, how we can unfold a totally new space for the electronic musician when we are seen is associated to an in-game spatialization technique using high-order ambisonic and binaural techniques. When we start the project, we had to take on the following options. So first of all, we choose a tool or basis, so a game engine, Unity 3D, would be the host of the project. And then the project has to respond to the following VR standards, providing stereoscopic immersion of a 3D scene in projection perspective perception, interactivity, control, and free motion with 6 degrees of freedom. This is very important, especially for the head tracking. And providing a full 3D auditory space, in-game direct ambisonic 3D spatialization with binaural audio output via headphones. So we will not use classical middleware. If you're a little familiar with gaming, you know that for the post-production, audio post-production, we use middlewares like Fmod or Wise, but I decided to restart everything from scratch, and I wanted not to use these middlewares, and no use of external loudspeaker system. So the composition has to be 10 minutes long. The audiovisual scenario goes through 3 different qualities of space, with a correlation between what is seen and what is sensed from the auditory space. Blue is a large and aerial space. Red is occlusive, displaying spatial distortion from the listener perspective. And gray is a confined and very oppressive space. To shape our experiments, we assembled an operating environment we can compare to an ecosystem we call our VR auditory ecosystem. This system is made up with digital components available through Unity 3D, multimedia files, GUI, 2D screen code, etc. One human in immersion, and the necessary external controllers like HMD, tactile control, tracking system. This VR auditory ecosystem is a dynamic environment divided into 3 groups of components, which are synchronized in real time with interdependency and capacity of interaction and control. This means that when I use something here, it has an effect here and then there. And everything is working at the same time and evolving at the same time. And sometimes things are evolving when the other are not still evolving. Okay, so we have a VR auditory space perception group. This is a very important group because this concerns all what the listener is confronted with, like notion of embodiment, delocation, and instantiation. The VR auditory space group, here we handle all the aspects concerning auditory spatial awareness in your auditory scene. Notions such as 3D sound for virtual reality, virtual auditory spaces, ambisonic in multimedia, high-order ambisonic libraries, HRTFS and binaural rendering through headphones are part of the process. And then we have the VR auditory space control group. Here we use 2 types of controls. The control applied in the digital domain through coding, like physical properties assigned to 3D objects, and the external hardware controllers, which are electronic devices working in relationship with the digital domain, like headphones, stereoscopic HMD, tactile controller, and tracking system. So our first experiment was made with our alpha version. We made this version with an Oculus DK2 in seated mode and started the test since end of 2015. So we have also a gamepad for the displacement and a supra-auricular headphone. So alpha version, so this is a Unity, Unity window scene. The scene of the window. So the alpha version used Unity 5, who provided at this time interesting new sound feature, like the integrated mixer working in conjunction with their 3D positioner audio pump. In Unity, the spatial blend parameter 3D position of the audio source object takes the source sound and regulates the gains of the left and right ear's contribution based on the distance and angle between the audio listener and the audio source object. Okay. If I'm not clear, I will talk about it afterwards. Providing simple directional cues for the player on the horizontal plane with an azimuth angle of 180 degrees, because we cannot have, in this situation, sounds we could perceive on the rear. So no elevation or rear perception is possible. Additional 3D settings authorized to adjust the roll-off curve of the volume with a minimum and maximum attenuation distance. And overall, a sound radiates at 360 degrees in the distance zone you have defined. The 3D position can create, the 3D position plan creates a dynamic immersive stereo sound field from where we can manipulate the spatial field depth to obtain different qualities of perspective. So we bypass additional integrated features like pitch. I keep the Doppler effect, and we do not use the reverb zones and audio effects. So before I went into VR, I composed mostly in stereo. I never did a spatialization map. I never had, that was not, I didn't need it. But once I went into this VR spatialization project, I had to define how the sounds will be set and how the sounds will circulate into this setting. So I made a spatialization map. And with this project, I could really take advantage of the space, and I couldn't let my imagination go on. Here we see the spatialization map of seconds 1 and 2, respectively linked to the following dramaturgy: large and aerial for seconds 1, the blue seconds, and close shifted perspective, loss of spatial references for seconds 2. So for the seconds 1, I designed a structure made of 5 quadraphonic layers, stretching from the center to external limits. So the 3 central layers form a quadraphonic octaphonic structure, projecting dotted sounds, events, responding in each other in a question-answer mode. So combined with the 2 external quadraphonic layers distant in red, in green, we obtain a homogeneous sound field crossed by 8 perspective lines, providing different depth of field. So we can see it clearly here. So in the blue scale are all the sounds we perceive when we are on the platform, and the red and green are the sounds which we think we perceive from beyond. So the proof of concept moment. After making the maps, the external sound design, we finally could immerse in our 3D auditory space. If the overall impression was good, even if we got only the lateral perception at this time, we had 2 problems: the lack of the rear perception and the loss of sound source depending on the height of the person who made the experience. Sometimes when the listener rotates the head too rapidly, there were loss of sound. And yes, because in fact it's a stereo. So sometimes when you are going too fast, you lose the space control. And I forgot something. And the most interesting aspect on this stage was the spatialization can be adapted to topological constraints. Here, the dimension, for example, the dimension of the plane has completely influenced the spatial mapping of the sound sources, as well as the sound scenario. And when I say topological, I use this from the geographical perspective, not the mathematical one, of course, because this is completely something else. Then we went on our beta stage, and here we are going to have a full 3D with high-order Ambisonics. Beta version was made, one version was made on Oculus DK2 in CTED, and we have translated everything then on PC, on HTC Vive, and room scale mode. So now we can walk. The alpha version demonstrates that an immersive electroacoustic composition specialized in VR makes sense, also for the composer or the listener. Then the beta version leveled the project up with the introduction of high-order ambisonic. We also changed our external apparatus, going from DK2 to HTC. So why is ambisonic the best choice for VR? Because it gives us a very homogenic sound field in the horizontal plane. This is a two-dimensional plane. And the full spherical one, the full 3D. So here we have the experience we made on the alpha version. No rear perceptions, and here are the sounds. Hard left, hard right on 180 degrees. With the HRR 3D, 2D, we have an overall perception on the lateral plane. And here we have the full 3D configuration, the full 3D scan. So the synthesized sound field is a speaker-independent representation and can be decoded for varying numbers of loudspeakers. It can be rotated or distorted. Exploited. This is exploited in binaural 3D audio, and this is also a question we have a lot of interest in because we use head tracking and binaural output. And the sound field can have a variety of spatial resolution, especially at high order. And then we got a much better decomposition of the sound field through harmonics. So more we got harmonics, and the better we got an angular perception of the sound in the sound field. So we can, with order 0, we got an omni if you're into microphone, you know what is omnidirectional sound, it's quite the same. So order 0, we have the sound from everywhere. There's no directional cues. Order 1, you got the directional cues, but it's a large zone. And the more you add orders, and the more your angle is at its finest, and you have a better resolution. And with Amchilum, we got a high order 6, if I remember well. So, and the sound field, in the end, can be decoded to binaural, stereo, or multi-channel format. From there, so we make the second experience. So Unity allows replacing the standard 3D panel by a more advanced one with an open interface with the audio spatializer SDK, which is an extension on top of the native audio plugin SDK. From this interface, French company 3D Sound Labs, which is partner of the project, created a VR audio kit providing a high-order ambisonic 3D spatializer for Unity. So this spatializer could handle simultaneously 32 audio sources, independent audio sources, in a perceptive 3D scene with a spatial resolution going from order 1 to 6 in the horizontal and vertical plane. So from now on, we got elevation. Delivering a full spherical auditory 3D perception. The output is binauralized with a default HRTF characteristic. So this means that during 2 or 3 years, all the people who made the experience made it through a head called MAP. And sometimes this gives interesting results. The beta journey started with and so we started the journey making a test involving Jean-Christophe Messonnier, sound engineer at the Conservatoire National de Musique et de Danse de Paris. Messonnier works on recordings and spatialization of complete audio scenes with binaural, transaural system developed by Jean-Marc Lisva and Alexis Baskin. But these systems are made for headphones in sitting mode, and you can only rotate the head and you have a sweet spot. So what we have, we made the following test. It gives me a bunch of stems, and we saw what happened. So we transpose an entire audio scene previously recorded and spatialized by Messonnier with a transaural V panel into our VR auditory space using 3D Sound Lab's VR audio toolkit. So the scene consisted of 16 monophonic stems recorded from a jazz trio, including the direct sound, the early reflection, the later reflection, and the high reverberation. So once we made the integration, we made a marvelous discovery and experience, because we were absolutely freed from the sweet spot constraint. So here we have the singer is here, the guitar is here, contrabass is here. These are the direct sounds. This is my starting point, and then we have all the reverbs you can put on the heights, other we can put more down. And the thing is that from now on, remember at the origin of the project, there was a sweet spot constraint, we could not move. And you, doing this experience, you can absolutely move through the whole sound field, from everywhere. So we have a completely different perspective from the sound scene.
Just so you know, we have 4 more minutes. That includes questions.
Okay, so okay, so this is so you understand this. So simplifying this method, this workflow, we could achieve the third sequence of empty room with a panic room. And so we made recordings with Messonnier and we used the same workflow, and it was gives us several results. Okay, so empty room has not finished to explore VR. In our next project, we want to focus more specifically on the interaction in real time of the composer with the VR auditory space. So we want to prototype an immersive 3D interface for the composer. And also we want to, this is the ASH high order Ambisonic library of Paris, and we want to make this library VR compatible in Unity 3D. And the other project is with France Japon, and I will be in charge to make a modelization and integration of the French Motus Acousmonium in Unity 3D. Same experience. We'll see what happens, if this makes sense for the composers. Okay, so why do we speak about plasticity? And because in the end of the work, I could imagine transforming my first seconds into a full spherical ambisonic dome, for example, and to keep in my seconds too my 32 sound sources in the audio scene, making the mix between mono sound, stereo pairs, shifting quadraphonic and octaphonic layers, and to imagine we keep in the second suite the 15 sound sources we made with the B-band transfer techniques, which is an object-oriented audio scene technique, and with additional monophonic sound sources. So we have really in the same work, we could have any specialization map we decide. I mean, there is nothing could stop us. So this is very encouraging for us. And all this on a high order Ambisonics 3D layer with a binaural output.
One minute.
So my conclusion. So conclusion: VR is a real opportunity for electroacoustic composition, providing innovative spatialization possibilities free from the sweet spot constraints. The Ambisonic binaural team can integrate handheld display, numerous audio dissemination formats. The flexibility of the spatialization can be closely set to the virtual 3D topology, and a new harmonization of the compositional space can be set free from classical post-production techniques, and this was what I was searching after. And so I'm very happy that it's now possible. We can do such things. For me as a composer, it opens a wide range of possibilities. And thank you very much.
Merci, Christine. Thank you very much.
State University, and we run the Acoustic Ecology Lab there. We're going to give a talk today about a summer class that we run at Ansbach Hochschule, and Professor Purple is here, who invited us originally to run this class and facilitates it every year. And the class is based around an adaptation of John Cage's 49 Waltzes to Ansbach as a way of encouraging students to develop fresh eyes and fresh ears for the environments in which they live. Sabina will make the presentation and we'll take answers together afterwards.
Thank you. Although an astute and environmentally engaged listener and artist, John Cage is rarely considered in the context of soundscape and acoustic ecology studies. Yet such works by Cage as his silent piece, 4 minutes and 33 seconds and 49 waltzes for the 5 boroughs, are great examples for exploring soundscape, sound walking, and sound mapping. Above all, they can be used to teach students and non-academic communities about auditory awareness and to engage them in creative placemaking endeavors, drawing on such technological tools as stereo and ambisonic field recorders, Max MSP, video and virtual reality cameras, as well as headsets. In the following, I will illuminate and contextualize 49 waltzes and then report on experiences and insights gained through the lens of this work from co-teaching with Garth Payne, acoustic ecology in an undergraduate course titled Media Art and the Environment at the Hochschule Ansbach, graduate courses at Arizona State University, and in community workshops. I will also detail our methodologies and outcomes of these events. It is not difficult to see Cage as an acoustic ecologist. He became attuned to urban and non-urban sonic environments in the early 1940s in the process of quieting his compositional self while studying with Gita Sarabhai. In James Pritchett's words, quote, "He could listen to silence around him at any time and did so often with enjoyment," end quote. Just as annoyed about the Music Corporation as R. Maury Schaefer, Cage planned but never realized a piece to be called Silent Prayer in 1948. It was to be an antidote to elevator music, rampant at the time. Quote, "Opening with a single idea, which I will attempt to make as seductive as the color and shape or fragrance of a flower. The ending will approach imperceptibility," end quote.
Go, John.
In the next 4 years, developed musical aesthetics shaped by such Buddhist concepts as the sunyata, emptiness, his experience in Harvard's anechoic chamber, 1951, Robert Rauschenberg's white paintings, and his fascination with unintended sounds, which led to 4 minutes and 33 seconds. A piece created from charts of silences and chance operations for silent performances. Inviting listeners to critically engage with unintentional sounds, 4 minutes and 33 seconds exists in several versions. A metered one for 4 meter, a graphic version with proportionally laid out blank spaces from 1953, and the widely known text version dating from 1960. Thereafter, Cage conceived several more silent pieces, 0 minutes and 0 seconds, also called 4 minutes and 33 seconds number 2, demonstration of the sounds of the environment, a silent walk on the University of Wisconsin's Milwaukee campus after a violent incident in 1970, and 103 of 1989, requiring the amplification of a space's sound up to feedback level. With these pieces, Cage created various frameworks for environmental listening, showed his preference of sonic diversity over sonic monocultures, and expressed a desire for a peaceful coexistence of human and non-human generated sounds, letting sounds be themselves in line with concepts of acoustic ecology. In the 1960s, when the environmental movement gained momentum, Cage showed deep concern for the health of the planet and the ecological consequences of the Vietnam War, absorbing such influential books as Rachel Carson's Silent Spring and Charles Reich's The Greening of America. Active as a member of the New York Mycological, Audubon, and Thoreau societies, and promoter of community gardens in New York City in the 1960s, he created a series of eco-critical compositions based on Thoreau, father of the environmental movement in the United States, and on ecological ideas. Cage, a nature lover, stated, quote, "Nature is not a separation of water from air or of the sky from the earth, etc., but working together or a playing together of those elements. Thus, that is what we call ecology. Music, as I conceive it, is ecological. You could go further and say that it is ecology." Equipped with experience in acousmatic music composition since the early 1950s, and to a lesser degree field recording, Cage created such works as Birdcage, using taped bird song from Pittsburgh's National Aviary and the Bombay Hook Wildlife Refuge near Dover, Delaware, etc., featuring nature and traffic sounds captured by David Bierman, and Lecture on the Weather, incorporating field recordings from Walden Pond by Marianne Amarche. In 1974, Cage stated, quotes, "The sounds of their environment constitute a music which is more interesting than the music they, the people, would hear if they went into a concert hall," end quote. Commissioned by Robert Moran and Robert Helps for an anthology of 25 contemporary piano waltzes published by C.F. Peters in 1977, Cage's 49 waltzes for the 5 boroughs of New York builds on many of the aforementioned ideas and works. The composition is ironically not for piano, but for, quote, "performers or listeners or record makers," end quote. Cage selected 147 sites in New York City via chance operations from the street index of Hagstrom's 5-borough wall maps of New York City. To him, 3 street locations, aka 3 beats or 3 steps, form a waltz, and he drew all the waltzes as 49 multicolored triangles on the Hagstrom map, published in October 1977's Gala issue of Rolling Stone magazine. The task of the dancer is to waltz from location to location and then engage with the sounds encountered at these sites through performing, listening, and recording. A truly Cagean realization of 49 waltzes determines the score's indeterminate aspects by use of chance operations, the length of the overall work, the duration of presence at each street location, outdoor or indoor settings, above ground or underground, the time of the visit, and when making recordings, the microphone type and placement or camera settings. Ideally, the performers would let sounds be themselves and avoid making choices that reflect their likes and dislikes. Besides numerous realizations of individual or small sets of waltzes made since 1979, an audiovisual version of the complete score by Don Gillespie, Roberta Friedman, Jean Capriolio, Arlene Schloss, and Carl Teitelbaum in 1994 and 95 was released on DVD by Mode Records in 2008. So do we have a bit sound? Okay. So then, sorry for this. We should have tested the sound. Can you just forward a little bit? Okay, here we go. Thanks. Since then, 49 Waltzes has been explored as a media work many times. In 2012, composer Randy Gibson and designer Oscar H. Scott created a platform for ongoing crowdsourcing of 49 Waltzes. After transcribing 49 Waltzes for Chicago, retitling the work A Dip in the Lake, Cage suggested that the waltz's score could be applied to other cities. Video artist Roberta Friedman thus waltzed in Beijing, you have a clip here, Cairo, Detroit, and Graz, and plans to add more cities to her Cosmopolis 49 Waltzes for the World project, which began with New York City in 1994. And of course, Beijing has changed a lot since 2007. Cage thus created a basis for large-scale urban sound mapping projects that, through geolocated field recordings, with or without visual cues, grant performers, listeners, record makers, and audiences a peek into a city's acoustic ecology, as in the 1995 realization of 49 Waltzes. Featuring sounds by people from all walks of life, shouting, whispering, singing, roaring planes and cars, shrieking police and fire sirens, songs of birds and seals at the Bronx Zoo, and rustling leaves and wind in borough parks. Audio or video recordings of 49 Waltzes document change in the sonic makeup of the city, especially when made at regular intervals for use in big data urban sound studies. It thus relates to the auditory archives and ethnographies of the World Soundscape Project, Vancouver Soundscape and Soundscapes of Canada, pioneered by R. Murray Schafer, Howard Broomfield, Bruce Davis, Peter Hughes, Barry Truax, and Hildegard Westerkamp's camp a few years earlier. You have the photo here. The idea to use 4 minutes and 33 seconds and 49 waltzes as frameworks for teaching acoustic ecology in college classes and community workshops arose in spring 2014 during the planning for the inaugural symposium of ASU's Listen Project, a multi-platform acoustic ecology endeavor launched by Garth Payne along with my preparation for a course on Cage. At the symposium in fall 2014, our students presented audiovisual installation of 49 waltzes transcribed for the ASU campus. And here I have a little excerpt. A year later, upon invitation by Cornelius Pöppel, who is here in the audience, we designed a class titled Media, Art and the Environment around this idea for the Hochschule Ansbach's International Summer School. We proceeded as follows. Students were introduced to such listening modes as passive, directed, and active listening. They were asked to practice them with and without blindfolds in stationary listening exercises and sound walks, and thereafter invited to share their experiences in discussions. Principles of acoustics and such concepts as geo, bio, anthro, and somaphony were introduced as well to deepen auditory awareness and reflection. Next, the students learned about Cage's ideas of silence, indeterminacy, chance, and the I Ching, which Cage used as a number generator for his chance operations, and applied them in outdoor performances of 4 minutes and 33 seconds. Retrieved with a free I Ching app, the numbers provided the students with information about their listening location, how many steps to take in a certain direction, for instance. The chance results nudged them to listening to any place, not merely their chosen favorite site, leading to unpredictable sonic discoveries. Sitting still to listen for almost 5 minutes can be daunting for some of the participants, but the 4 minutes and 33 seconds framework facilitates this task. Released in 2014, the iOS 4 minutes and 33 seconds app for recording and uploading individual performances on a growing global digital map has made this listening exercise attractive for a wide constituency of people and introduced them to the idea of field recording. We have used this tool to familiarize students with field recording and crowdsourced sound archives and maps. Despite the requirement of an expensive smartphone, this app has paved the way toward open access collection of field recordings on a global scale. Our students listen to and add new recordings to the 4 minutes and 33 second sound map that features a performance in Cage's New York apartment with traffic and siren sounds of the always bustling 6th Avenue. The 4 minutes and 33 seconds online sound map builds on such other growing online field recording projects as Aaron and Prowen Zim's Quiet America 1 Minute Vacations, which started in 2002. The culminating outcome of the Ansbach course, offered yearly since 2015, has been a growing audiovisual installation of 49 waltzes transcribed for the Baroque city of Ansbach. You have a little picture here. Local and international students work in small groups to discover sound and sights of Ansbach through the lens of Cage's music and philosophy. Each group uses a map of Ansbach and a set of chance operations, including max MSP, to determine the length of the 3 sections of each 3-minute long waltz, their locations, the time of their audiovisual recordings, the camera settings, and movements. Each group creates triangulations on the Ansbach map for their waltzes and learns how to use stereo and ambisonic microphones and video, including VR video cameras. During the gathering of the footage in downtown Ansbach, they keep a listening journal and document the overall creative process up to this point. After their field work, the students edit their 9 videos for inclusion in an installation which is a 3-screen recombinant media archive. Each waltz consists of 3 videos of chance-determined length. The software stores references to all the movie files in ordered lists so that a play command on the first machine cues all 3 waltz sections for play and start playback of the first waltz section. At the conclusion of the first video, the second section is triggered for playback, and at its conclusion, the 3rd section is triggered. Thus, all 3 sections are played in order and without a break between sections. Each section is projected on its own large screen so that the audience can stand within the 3D space they form and be surrounded and located within the waltz experiences. Once the waltz finishes, a new waltz is cued for playback. The new waltz is selected at random for those waltzes not yet played in the ordered list. Once all waltzes are played, the process begins again from a new random location. In order to create new recombinant waltzes, the system was augmented with three foot pedals placed on the floor in front of the screen associated with each section of the waltz. Stepping on the pedal selects a random number from the array of waltzes in the system, so that when the next waltz set is cued for playback by machine 1, a recombination of waltz sections plays. This system allows audiences to create new sets without being able to pre-select or preview material, expanding the original chance operations to engage them in new discoveries. While interaction is available during playback, it does not become a live selection until the next round of playback. The design approach avoids interruption of waltz sets and means that the audience has to be patient to experience their selections. It also means that several communal changes can be made before the selections become live, avoiding the prescriptive approach of individual demand selection and instant gratification. This supports Cage's intentional use of chance operations to encourage discovery and unexpected, non-prescriptive outcomes.
You have 5 minutes left.
Okay, it's perfect. Here we see. It's not, no. Oh. So the chance to operations had forced them to point the camera on the ground, but the sound gives you the context of this image. Over the last 4 years, students have produced 47 Ansbach waltzes. In 2019, the archive will exceed 49, the originally given number. Yet the recombinant approach means that the new waltz sets created by the audience are not only new collections of places, but may be offset in time, also representing social and cultural changes and evolution of the built fabric and infrastructure of Ansbach across the years of the project. The Ansbach waltzes then take on the form of an historical archive of sounds and sights where past and present coexist at the time of viewing, seemingly time agnostic, yet inherently embodying the time and place of their original recording. Furthermore, the installation celebrates the act of listening. Much of the chance-based visual footage appears abstract, a close-up of a few cobblestones, for instance, and it is sound that provides the crucial information for the moving images. Participants in these creative placemaking endeavors have positively commented on their embodied listening and learning experiences while developing a deeper understanding of and connectedness with places they visited or inhabited. They have discovered value in sounds they previously deemed worthless, understanding them as a rich fabric that describes the environment that surrounds them. They have reported that they now listen to the world with new ears, feeling more embedded in the environments they live in and through which they travel. Therefore, the study and realization of Cage's 4 minutes and 33 seconds and 49 waltzes encourage auditory awareness, a set of useful listening practices, as well as creative frameworks and professional techniques for recording and presenting momentary glimpses of the environments in which the class takes place. All principal goals in the field of acoustic ecology. Cage said in 1966, quote, "The music I prefer is what we are hearing if we are just quiet," end quote. Cage's silent pieces facilitate a range of dynamic activities that combine discovery, learning, placemaking, and teach an important lesson on most humanity's ever-growing sonic footprint. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to Volcane. So we're going to run a little bit over time, but I think we'll be okay. It'll probably be 5 minutes. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Does anybody know how it works here?
No, it's there.
It's there. Oh my god. And it's not here, but okay, there's no problem. Okay, let's see if it works. My name is Jorge Medina Victoria, and I'm work here as a lecturer and also laboratory engineer. And I'm writing my PhD right now. It does nothing to have with the format of immersive sounds about music technology. What we are talking today about in the search of the right format for immersive sound. And actually, there is no right format for immersive sound. There are a lot of formats and a lot of combination of them, but there are not the format which can give me the best immersive sound of all. Immersive audio is a term that actually has been used for some years and is parallel to 3D audio. Actually, both of them mean the same. And what do I want to do when I use immersive audio? I want to fool the senses, mainly the auditory sense. And to achieve that, there are plenty variety of formats, actually drive-based formats. Channel-based audio, that's what everybody knows. That's our loudspeakers, for example. And when you listen at home, stereo, in your stereo, or in your audio, that's channel-based. There are scene-based, and actually it's a new terminology. It works very well for something like virtual reality. And we know scene-based is actually from Ambisonics and wave field synthesis. And there is object-based, and some people think that is the future. Let's see, channel-based. In channel-based, we have normally a setup, and we can use even one layer and a top layer. And this setup may be called Auro 3D, or maybe 5+4, or maybe 9.0. However, the thing is that when I want to listen in this format, I sit in the middle, and then let's see, I want to listen to a bird. And I use the psychoacoustic facilities that this format gives me, and I try to localize the sound in the horizontal plate. That's really easy. I make that using level difference, phase difference, and spectral cues. If I want to do the same for the vertical plane, it works not so well, because we humans localize differently from in the horizontal as in the vertical. However, how can we solve this problem? This problem can be solved with a lot of miking. If I use so many microphones as loudspeaker I have, there is no problem. I mean, when every microphone has its own loudspeaker, it will really work and really, really well. Then I play my bird there, I record the thing, and using channel-based technology, I will hear the bird where I have to listen to that. Research have shown ultimately that the distance between this top layer, the top layer and the down layer is not so important. Actually, the only important thing is that I have 2 layers of microphones, and how they are directed is also not important. It makes a difference, but it's not so important. Also, I can project a 3-dimensional space using microphones or using psychoacoustic. Then, A plus of the channel-based system is that there are a variety of recording techniques, and I checked that. The formats are really robust because they are historically very stable. We use stereo since almost 100 years. 5.1 and 3.0, there are also normal systems, and they use it nowadays, and they will be used also in the future. The real problem is the reproduction setup. When I was using this channel-based format, I used nine loudspeakers and 9 microphones. If I change a loudspeaker, I have to change the method I'm used to mix. I have to change also the production system. Maybe I have to make the whole thing again, and that's not really flexible. Scene-based systems, then we are talking about Ambisonics, and that's an Ambisonics microphone. Actually, that's not an Ambisonics microphone. That is an A-format microphone. A-format microphone means I have a microphone with 4 capsules, I record 4 signals, and then I convert them in something which is called, okay, this is also the same. Some of you are aware of this brand, and they are producing right now A-format microphones. And when I record an A-format microphone, I have to decode that, and to decode that, I use the physics of the spherical harmonics, just a mathematical representation of the sound field. And that's called the B format. If I had an A format, then I have a B format, that's what I listen to. And a B format comes in 2 configurations mainly. FOL, first order ambisonic, that's what I can produce using this microphone. And everything above that is higher order ambisonics. Higher order ambisonics is really very used in virtual reality, and the reason why it is used is because to rotate the whole plane mathematically it's very, very simple. First order ambisonics is also used, but the quality, the sound qualities are not so good as with high order ambisonic. The accuracy of this representation is better than that. And to give an example, I have this sphere, that's the pressure. I have the axis, X, back and front, Y, left and right, and Z, up and down. Then I can represent a 3-dimensional sound field. Very easy with first order ambisonics. However, let's say we have the same bird, then we have our sphere, that's our W, pressure. Then we hear in the whole setup. That's the problem. That begins the problem. I'm here in the sweet spot, and suddenly all those speakers are sounding. That's kind of weird. It works well when I'm recording some atmospheric sound, but when I'm recording point sources, it's really, really annoying. And then I use the other 3 configurations. I mean, what we saw here. Ooh. This thing. That's the sphere, and then come the X, Y, and Z. Then up and down. Then I listen to the up loudspeakers. Then back and front. Mostly the signal is in the front. However, there's always a part in the other loudspeaker. And that's actually the main problem with first order ambisonics. I have a lot of phasing. Then, what are the good things of first order ambisonics? There are a few signals recorded in called 3D audio information. It means I can use an A-format microphone and I have a 3-dimensional field. What else? It's easy to manipulate. I can rotate it as I want. The problem is the sweet spot is very narrow. And the localization is not so well. That's all the problems for first order ambisonics. And then we talk about object-based. Normally, for object-based system, I record with just one microphone. I record a mono source, and I place it in my 3D space. I record one bird, and I say, okay, there's my object plus metadata. What's the metadata? Metadata is actually the position and the level of this sound source. It's very flexible. I can use any loudspeaker setup and it works. And that's why many people think that's the future of audio representation. I can use any reproduction setup. Maybe the format of the future, maybe. Why? Because it's personalized. Everyone can create his own or her own setup at home with loudspeaker or with headphones, etc., etc. A problem, a drawback, is that the recording techniques almost allow only mono sources because they are easily to play. If I record stereo, it is possible to work with that, but it's kind of difficult. And the workflow is very demanding in comparison with the other systems. There are also mixed format, and mixed format is the combination between two formats or even three. And you can combine Ambisonics with channel-based and with object-based, and actually done. It's kind of complicated, but it's possible. And an example would be, for example, if I use a channel-based system, I record 8 channels, I use my loudspeakers, and then I add some metadata. And those configurations is kind of exaggerated, but actually you have to see what we have here, or almost nearly 40 loudspeakers or something like that, and it works really well. Obviously, nobody's going to have 40 loudspeakers at home, but maybe a lot of you are going to have headphones, and that's possible to do that with headphones. And that, I am aware you know what I'm showing here. A Star is Reborn. Actually, this is a really old technology. It's almost 40 or maybe 45 years old. And there is a renaissance using such things like Kunststoff, because that's, for some people, the best sound field representation that you can get with just 2 microphones. And it's really important here, it's not about the microphones here and there, it's the whole concept, because for hearing, for the audio sound field to be represented is very important, our bones, our face, and the way the sound is reflected. And the only drawback of this Kunststoff is that you cannot track the difference. When you listen to that, you just listen in one position. You can move your head, and it won't work. However, it's very interesting that some old technologies, and Ambisonics is also old technology, are in a renaissance or something like that. And then a little summary about that. When you are producing immersive sound or 3D audio sound, there are some attributes that you're looking for. The most important are envelopment, localization, tumbling, and a large sweet spot. It's impossible to get all of them at once with one system or with one format. There's always a compromise, and the way you combine the different formats is the way you get the better compromise to get maybe more envelopment or more localization or timbre or a large sweet spot. Life is not perfect, but there are a lot of possibilities to enhance that. Thank you very much.
Oh, that's great. Well, it is the end, but I think we have 5 minutes for questions, so why don't, to any of the presenters. Is there any questions?
Is the 40 speaker room, is it possible to go there?
The problem is that the 40 speakers are there in the Capuchin enclosure, and there is an installation, and that's, they are using the system, but that's the system that they're using here.
Okay. Another question, what about higher order Ambisonics? You just mentioned first? Or?
I just mentioned first order because nowadays the only way to record first order Ambisonics, you can do that with an A format microphone. To do higher order Ambisonics, there is no microphone.
What?
No, there are. I know what you mean. There are some research, and actually there are kind of microphones with teeny membranes. And what they do is they have an integrated DSP system, but there is not just an acoustical system, and that's the main difference. This A format microphone, there have no DSP. There are just membranes. There are cardioid membranes, 4 of them, and then you convert that into B format. For the other microphone, they recorded sound field And they, at the same time, they are decoding that with DSP technology, and that's the way you get the signal with high-order microphones. But it's impossible acoustically to do a higher order microphone. It's just an electronic thing to say that. And the difference, I didn't speak about that because for the people who are doing soundscapes outside and outdoors, it will be really difficult to get something different as an A format microphone. You can do that with a normal Fox test and the A format, and it's very simple to do that. And that's an easy way to record Atmos. However, there are the localization and the timbre, they are not so good with those systems.
Any other comments or questions before we close it off? I had a question for you. I'm a very simple user of recording. I just do stereo, and I don't want to do more. But I don't.
That's fine.
No, but I'm thinking on a practical level, those who do field recording and want to become more sophisticated in multi-channel recording, what's the next step for it? Like, this is very sophisticated and advanced and expensive, I assume. But where does the field recorders who wants to take that next step to have better tools, where do they go?
Well, in my experience, there are a lot of possibilities. It depends what you're going to do. If you're going to do channel-based system, you can take kind of little array of microphones, let's say 8, and you can do really good immersive sound recording. And you can use an A format. There's just 4 channels, and it will work. However, mono works also. That's the thing. The thing is, what do you want to do at the end?
Yeah.
And what's the goal? And there are people who use arrays that are really 3 meters long or 3 meters high and with 16 microphones or something like that. And sure, it's okay to do that, but the question is at the end, what do you want to do with that, and where are you going to present that? At the end, are the people just hearing with the true headphones or with a loudspeaker system?
Yeah, intention. Well, I think we'll leave it at that and go have a break. Thank you to all 3 presenters. It's really interesting to go deeper into technology.